All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to FCI Live and to today's session about email drip campaigns with Katie Novak from Katie Novak Consulting. We're so happy to have you all here today and really honored to have Katie here sharing um, her expertise and experience with a large number of startup food co-ops across the country. My name is Faye Mack. I am the Executive Director of Food Co-op Initiative. And if you are new to FCI and new to FCI Live, we are a small nonprofit organization that works to help people all across the country start food co-ops. And we do that through technical assistance, resources and guides, educational interactive opportunities like FCI Live, and co-hosting the National In-Person Food Co-op Conference for Startups, up and coming conference, and also uh, run our very beloved peer group program that brings co-ops together to learn from each other and from experts every month. So we're really happy to have you all here today. As I said at the top, we'll have lots of time for question and answer throughout. So if you have questions or comments, please add them to the chat. If please keep yourself muted for now, but we will have lots of time for folks to be able to unmute and ask questions and engage directly as well. All right. Before we get started too, I just want to give a big thank you to all of our sponsors. FCI Live is free and available to anybody who is interested, in large part thanks to our sponsors who help fund this program, including our two champion sponsors, Columini and National Co-op Grocers. So we are grateful to them. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Katie. Welcome, Katie.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Let me get my slides here. Okay, can you see my screen? Awesome.
Yes, we
Great.
can.
Great. Well, it's my pleasure to be here, Faye. Thanks for having me. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces or familiar names in the group here and some new ones too. So to give a little background for those who might not know me, I am Katie Novak, and I started my cooperative career with Green Tap Grocery in Bloomington, Illinois, over 10 years, maybe 12 years ago, I guess now. Time flies when you're having fun. And I was a volunteer with Green Tap, and then joined their team as an employee as an outreach manager for Green Tap Grocery, and helped raise the capital to open that store. At the time, we set a record of 1.5 million in capital raised, which other co-ops have blown out of the water since then, which is fantastic. But as a result of that, many cooperators started asking if I could help them, could I teach them, could I share info? And as soon after Green Tap was open and on its feet, I transitioned to coaching or consulting, and that's what I do now. And I'm happy to be here to talk with you all about email drip campaigns. So let's talk about, and my system does this all the time. There we go. It doesn't advance using the same buttons every time I turn it on. So, but we figured it out. The agenda for today, we're going to talk about what an email drip campaign is, why they're useful to us at co-ops, and then some tips and tricks and best practices for utilizing an email drip campaign, and then two practical ways that we can put these to work at our co-ops right away. So let's start with what an email drip campaign is. It's basically a campaign of scheduled sequenced emails. These are typically automated. So many email platforms, including Constant Contact, which is the one I utilize and have had a lot of experience with, have automation that allows us to set this up. We invest a little bit of time up front, and it pays dividends, over time. But what an email drip campaign is, it's like a chef who's creating a dinner or creating a meal, and they're adding just the right amount of an ingredient at just the right time. And that's what an email drip campaign is. It's us providing a simple, specific piece of information to our audience at just the right time. The intent then is to have this beautiful meal, yeah, as a chef would create, at the end of this. And our intent with an email drip campaign is to engage the audience, to motivate them to activity on the back end of that email. As I mentioned before, there's lots of platforms that have automation that allows us to do this. And it allows us to create a small group of people to receive this series of emails and then draft and schedule those emails. So really all we have to do is set that system up. And then once certain triggers are met, the system automatically takes care of sending that content to the individuals that we've indicated. An example of an email drip campaign that I think we're probably all familiar with is when we're shopping online and we put something in a cart, but we don't purchase the item. We decide, or we get distracted, or we decide not to buy it at that time. But then somehow the retailer knows that item is in our cart, and we get an email that says, "Hey, remember you wanted to buy this. Your cart has not been activated, or you haven't purchased that item in your cart." And that's basically the retailer is using that cart, that fact that we put an item in our cart, as the trigger to start a series of communication with us. And they're going to remind us, "Hey, you want to buy this? You should buy this." And so really and truly, that's what we're doing with an email drip campaign, is reminding the audience of a certain piece of information that we want them to know, to talk with them about that specific topic. So why are these useful to us? Email drip campaigns are really helpful because they can do a lot for us with pretty minimal effort. So we do invest some time and energy up front, as I said, establishing the system, getting the system set up via Constant Contact or another MailChimp or online email platform. And we invest that time and energy so that we can then focus our time and energy on other things. But while we're doing those other things, the drip campaign is allowing us to engage with our audience. It gives us the opportunity to lead them down the path that we want them to go. So we can provide specific information to them to get them more engaged, more interested, more excited. It also inspires action. So over time, when we're communicating in small segments at regularly scheduled intervals, the recipient then is going to be inspired by this small, useful content to take action. They're going to get engaged, and they're going to do whatever it is, hopefully, that we're encouraging them to do, whether it's like our Facebook page, or volunteer for our co-op, or sign up to volunteer. We can create these campaigns to target lots of different actions. And hopefully the end result is that they do engage and they do take action. But it's also an opportunity for us to educate. We're spending weeks here at FCI Live talking about co-ops. There's so much information and education available, and so much to learn about co-ops, that an email drip campaign is a great way for us to take some of that information and piece it out to our audience, to educate them about what we're learning about co-ops and about how co-ops can impact their communities, and hopefully inspire and engage them to get active. So let's talk about some best practices for email drip campaigns. You want to set a goal for your campaign, and you have a specific target in mind. As a result, what do you want to happen as a result of your email drip campaign? Do you want people to like your Facebook page, or do you want them to volunteer, join your owners group? Whatever that action is, you want to set a realistic and measurable goal. And to do that, you're going to have to segment your audience. So we're going to have to target a specific group of people for an email drip campaign. This isn't something that we send, it's not the shotgun approach where we send the same thing to everyone. This is a very targeted message to a very targeted audience. We've talked about the automated platforms that exist. I strongly encourage you to utilize those. It makes executing a drip campaign like this very simple. It requires a little bit of time on the front end, but absolutely worth the investment on the back end. And you want to keep your content upbeat and informational. These are short segments of information that are specifically targeted to an outcome. And we want to make sure that it's positive and upbeat and exciting and informational. We want them to be, these pieces of information to be useful and engaging. And to do this, we need to determine our trigger. So the trigger is this action that sets off this series of emails. And so in the example I shared earlier, the trigger was putting an item in my shopping cart. That set off the trigger of emails that I received from that online retailer. The trigger for us might be joining our email list or joining the co-op or attending an event. And as a result, you receive a series of specific targeted communications. And then you want to determine the frequency. It's important to keep in mind your current communication frequency at your co-op. How frequently are you communicating with your members? And we want to keep a similar cadence. We're going to increase that frequency likely, but we don't want to drastically change that. So we don't want to go from one email a month to sending one email a week. That's a pretty big difference. But we can go from one email a month to two for a targeted audience. So this small group of people, they're going to receive 2 emails this month. We want to keep in line with our communication strategy and frequency that we already have established. And it's also important that we respect the folks who have provided us their email address, and that we're not emailing them 3 times a day like I get some emails from some retailers. We're specific and intentional and respectful when we're communicating and determining the frequency of the email that we send. And I'm a big proponent of using catchy subject lines. And I have a whole session on creating a catchy subject line, because if you can't get the recipient to open your email, it's useless. It doesn't do any good. It sits in their inbox along with 10,000 other email that we get every day. But if it's got a catchy subject line, if it catches my attention, I'm going to open it. And so I strongly encourage you to utilize catchy subject lines when you're doing an email drip campaign. So let's take a pause real quick before we go to the examples and answer some questions if we have any. I'll stop sharing my screen so I can see people instead of the screen. Deborah, looks like your hand is up, or it was up. I did see a hand up.
Okay, yeah, it is me. How you doing, Katie? So good
Good.
to hear you. Good, this is excellent subject, by the way. And you're probably going to get to this, but the part on automated platforms, that's you already have that, or should we wait for that, or what?
Oh, go ahead. If you have a specific question about an automated platform, we can talk about
Yeah,
that.
I have no idea about automated platforms. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. So there are platforms that allow us to communicate with a group of people. You can set them up. Some of them are free up to a certain limit. MailChimp is one. Constant Contact is another online platform that allows us to collect email information and allow people to join our newsletter, for in short, I guess. And the system provides some structure and services like graphics and templates and imagery that we can utilize to make our communication with our audience a little more professional or put together than just sending a text email via your Gmail or whatever you might use. So it's a platform. Typically, there's free options available up to a certain number of subscribers. Constant Contact is my favorite, but it's only because it's the only one I've ever used. So MailChimp, I know lots of co-ops use MailChimp as an option, and I'm sure there are other platforms out there that allow you to do that. And those platforms then have services within them that allow you to set up this kind of drip campaign. So it allows you to say, for example, Deborah, we could make a group of people with myself, Faye, Purple Carrot, and Deidre in a group. and it would allow me to say, to this 4 people, I want to send these 4 emails. So that's what we're talking about here. And we just put the content, we create the content for those 4 emails, and we tell the system, hey, when those 4 people do X, or for example, put something in their shopping cart, we're going to send them these 4 emails. So does that make sense? Does that help?
Yes, that's plenty. Thank you so much. I
Yep.
appreciate it.
Yep. What other questions do we have?
Can you talk about the trigger, determine the trigger a little bit more? And can you go in depth on that, please?
Sure. So the trigger would be the instigating event that would start this series of communications. So it can be lots of different things. And we're going to talk about 2 specific examples moving forward. But off the top of my head, I can think of a number of triggers. For example, birthdays. So everyone whose birthday is in February, let's say, since February is our next month, they get a series of emails from us about their birthday, like happy birthday from the co-op. You know, here, celebrate your birthday by attending these events with the co-op, or a series of communications like that. Your co-op anniversary, the celebration of when you became an owner that month. Everyone who joined the co-op, let's say in January, gets a series of emails about why joining a co-op was a great investment and why co-ops have impact, and reminding them about the importance of co-ops. Other examples of triggers could be joining our mailing list. You know, if you have a in-person event and folks jot their email address on a form, when you get back and get those names in your system, you can add those to a specific list that triggers a series of emails that go to that person, like, hey, you signed up for our mailing list, welcome. And we're going to talk through some of those examples and what those might look like. But really, it's just an activating event, and we can establish what those events are, and we can decide within our co-op what makes sense for us. Those are some examples off the top of my head, if that's helpful.
Yeah, that helps a lot because sometimes I do feel like I run out of ideas and I don't want to sound repetitive and say the same things in my email. So that really helps me think of other ways that I can still engage and, communicate with my audience without, saying the same thing over and over. So yeah, that helps a lot. Thank
Great.
you.
Yep. It looks like Carol has her hand up too.
Hi, quick question. Some of us came in late. Would you be willing to put your initial slide up again just for a minute so we can catch up?
The first slide of the presentation?
The one that had the list of
Yeah.
all the, okay, great.
This one? Or this one?
No, the one that had all the list.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, the last one. That's it.
Okay.
Okay, good.
I'll leave that
Took
up
a picture. I took a
good.
picture of it. Okay. Thank you.
You bet. You bet. Other questions? I'm scrolling through to see who all is on here. Good to see some familiar faces and some familiar names. Okay, well, let's keep going, and we'll go through some examples. So the first one is a new email subscriber. So as we were talking about earlier, you're at a tabling event and you have an email newsletter sign up form, and you get some names added to that list. We're gonna talk through what an email drip campaign for that group of people might look like. So the goal with this group is going to be to get these new email subscribers to like our Facebook page. We're gonna decide that that's our goal. Now your goal might be something different. You might want them to volunteer or take another activity. But for us, our goal is going to be to get them to like our Facebook page. They've told us they want to hear from us. We know they're interested, and that's going to be our target. The segment is going to be that we're going to utilize all new email subscribers into a group of contacts that will go through this process. So anyone who signs up for our newsletter is automatically going to be added to a list in our automated system called new email subscribers. Let's just say, we'll just call it that. And whenever anyone's name is added to that list, that's the trigger, they're going to receive a series of communications from us. The trigger then, of course, as we just said, is joining the list, telling the co-op, hey, I want to receive your newsletter. And we're going to send them one email a month for 4 months. So they're going to get the regular email newsletter just like everyone else does, but we're also going to send them one extra email each month for 4 months. What might those email include? What might they look like? So for example, month number 1 could be an email thanking them for joining our mailing list. Hey, welcome to the Purple Carrot email newsletter. We're glad you're here. And we want to set expectations. Tell them, we usually send 1 to 2 emails a month. Your data is important to us. We don't sell it or give it to anyone else. We'll simply use it to communicate with you and keep in touch about the co-op. Short, simple, sweet. These are drips of information we're providing. We're kind of having, we're leaving breadcrumbs, so to speak, with these with this email communication. Then in month 2, we're going to send them the What's Not to Love About Co-op video. If you haven't seen that video, it's one of my favorites. It's a 2-minute animated video that talks about how cool co-ops are, and I really love it. And you could include that real short video in a quick email and introduce them to the fact that you have a Facebook page. In the PS of the email, you could say, hey, did you know we have a Facebook page? With a link. Just leave it at that. We're not asking them to do anything. We're just giving them this really cute video that tells them why co-ops are so cool, and we're telling them we have a Facebook page. And then in month 3, we're going to introduce them to the cooperative principles. So if they've signed up at an event, they thought, oh, this is a cool organization. Well, when they learn about our principles and they watch this video, they're going to see how even more cool we are than they even thought. And they're going to be even more excited to talk to us and engage with us. And then finally, in that 4th email, in that 4th month, we're going to send them a recipe, a seasonal recipe, make it informational and relevant, and make a direct ask to like our Facebook page. And like say, hey, here's a great recipe for, some citrus avocado salad, and directly ask, hey, join our Facebook page if you want more recipes like this, if you want to stay engaged with what's happening at the co-op. And then utilize that. Then you want to look at the data from these drip campaigns and see, okay, how many people who've gone through this 4 email process, how many of them do really like our Facebook page? Is this effective? Are we able to make a difference with the actions that we're taking? And as I mentioned before, it's very simple to set this up and automate this. These are things you can do one time, and every person who joins your newsletter will go through this series of events. And really the only updating you have to do probably is to change that seasonal recipe to something more, and during strawberry season, you want to include a strawberry, or you want to talk about sweet corn in the middle of summer. But really and truly, it's pretty simple. It's a pretty straightforward process, and really does a good job of engaging owners or people, not necessarily owners, people who haven't yet become owners. And we've talked about this. I'm going to stop sharing for a second again, because I rather see people than screens. But we talk about the fact that when we are recruiting new members, new owners of our co-op, it takes 7 touches for them to take action usually. And so an email drip campaign can create those touches, can automate some of those touches for us, and really simplify that process of bringing someone along on that path to more engagement, whether it's becoming an owner or liking our Facebook page. And it really can be quite impactful. I also want to share an example from my life that is relevant here. I'm relatively new to Dallas area. We've been here 5 years, but it doesn't seem like that long. But in the course of those 5 years, I've joined a few organizations. One of them is the community theater. I bought season tickets to the community theater, which is a few blocks from my home. I also became a member of the Art Center a few blocks from my home. These two organizations are literally across the street from each other. The community theater sends me emails on a very regular basis. They're always telling me what shows are coming up and how I can volunteer. They're asking me to donate. They're engaged, they're active, they're talking to me via email. The Art Center, on the flip side, I haven't heard from them since I became an owner or became a member of the Art Center. And I haven't attended an event there because I don't know when they are. I have to go to their website to find it. I have to do a little more legwork on my part. And so I share this example because the theater is engaging with me. They're communicating with me, and they may very well have an email drip campaign set up to send members, community theater season ticket holders, these series of emails. Like, you get these emails when you buy your season tickets. And so I just use them as an example to demonstrate my level of engagement. Personally, I'm more engaged at the theater. I've been there a handful of times, probably 6 or 8 times over the last year. Whereas the Art Center, I have been maybe 1 time. And I'm not nearly as engaged. And if someone in the community asked me about either one of them, I'd know much more about the theater, and I'd be able to share and talk much more about the theater than I would the Art Center. So just as an example of how this might play out in the real world, let's go back to our examples here, and we'll look at the second example I want to share with you guys. And this is when a new individual joins our co-op. So it's a pretty monumental thing when someone becomes a member of the co-op. It's a big deal and it's worth celebrating. And we can set up a series of communications with that new member to get them more engaged, to get them more active. So in this example, our goal is going to be to get new owners more engaged and perhaps to volunteer for the co-op. The segment is going to be new members. So when someone joins the co-op, we're going to automate a system through one of these platforms that's going to put every new member on an email list that receives a series of communications from us, receives this email drip campaign. And of course, the trigger is joining the co-op. And again, we're going to go with a once per month frequency. We're going to send 1 additional email to these folks per month for 4 months. So what might those look like? For example, in month 1, we're going to thank them for becoming an owner of the co-op, welcome them, and send them a link to our calendar of events. Hey, here's what's happening at the co-op. We'd love to see you at an upcoming event. Month number 2, we're going to share the cooperative principles, specifically featuring concern for community, why that's important to us and how it plays out at our co-op. And we're going to ask them to follow us on Facebook if they're not already, or join a members only page if you have a members only group on Facebook or social media. Then in month 3, that email could look like a testimonial from a recent volunteer. Perhaps, if you're recruiting board members, if you're coming up to election time, you might highlight a long-standing board member and have a photo of them with a testimonial about why they're so engaged and excited to be part of the co-op and why they volunteer. And then you want to share a link in that same email for a list of your volunteer opportunities. Like, what volunteer opportunities are happening at the co-op? We know we've got board elections. What else is happening? How else might I get engaged as a new member or owner of the co-op? And that 4th email of the month, we're going to share that events calendar again, and we're going to make a direct ask. Like, hey, we're going to be at the farmers market next month, and we need folks to man or staff the table. I shouldn't say man the table, staff the table. And we'd like you to do that. We'd like you to sign up to volunteer. So making a direct ask to those new members. So we'll take a pause here again and answer questions. If you have specific questions about these 2 examples, or if you have ideas or thoughts on email drip campaigns that you might use at your co-op, we'd be happy to talk those through and answer any questions.
Katie, there's a quick question in the chat too, just wanting to know where to find that what not to love about co-op video.
Ooh,
So
I'll find it and stick it in the
go
chat for you
and
guys.
you can drop it in the chat.
Okay, I'll get it before we're done for sure. It's a great video. I love it. Bertha, is that your phone? Are you raising your hand? Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm on my phone, so I don't know how to raise my hand on the phone. Just a quick
That's okay.
question. I'm pretty familiar with all those the MailChimp and Constant Contact. I have seen some stores, some retail stores, and some grocery stores doing via text. Have you seen those campaigns on like a text message and you subscribe and get discounts? Do you have experience with those? Do you recommend using those for co-ops? Just want to hear your thoughts.
Great question. Great question. So this kind of leads down a path, in my opinion, of co-ops. We often we don't have the resources and the capital necessarily to do many of the things that lots of retailers do. For example, hire marketing teams and establish texting platforms. So we often don't utilize them. And the email drip campaigns is one good idea. Retailers are using this, 100% of the time, probably 90% of the time. Where at co-ops here, we haven't even yet begun that process. So I strongly do encourage us to adapt to the technology that our counterparts are using. I don't have a lot of experience with texting because there is a cost associated with that. I have worked with a few co-ops, Food Shed Co-op in Lombard. They're about to open their store this spring. They do and have utilized texting. They're not yet open, but they did see significant results from texting via their capital campaign. So we have seen it work. We have seen it be successful. And, in reality, we're moving towards a texting environment. Every retailer, every person I'm doing business with is texting me. That's almost the exclusive method of communication. And so I encourage us as co-ops to find ways, if we can, to utilize the same kinds of avenues that other businesses are utilizing. And there is an expense associated with that usually, but if we can find a way to do it in a cost-effective manner, I think there's value. And of course, in a respectful way. We don't want to be spamming people's texts or their email for that matter.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Great question. But if we were using texting, this would be a great a way to do that. You could do the same series of information via text, of course, shorter and quicker probably, but same thought process. Jen, you have a question.
Hi, first of all, thank you for your time and sharing your expertise with all of us. I'm Jen Abbey. I'm a part of Shared Harvest Co-op in Elgin, Illinois. We're a stage 2B, so we're working towards securing a site. And when I started volunteering with the co-op about a year ago, we moved to a new email from a free email service that we had kind of outgrown based on our growing number of subscribers to one that's paid. It's called Email Octopus, and it's been very cost effective. So I just wanted to mention that if there's someone out there shopping for a service. But my question for you is, when we did the conversion to the new platform, we found a huge number of spam emails that had snuck onto our list because we have a sign up on our website. So now we use a double opt-in. So when someone subscribes to our newsletter, they receive an email saying, "Did you really mean to subscribe? We'd love to have you. Please click this box." And a lot of people get hung up on that, and then we don't hear from them. So I was wondering, a double opt-in is something that you recommend to people that you work with just to keep your list clean, or is it something that you lose people in the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. I lean away from the double opt-in. I think there's a time and a place for it. It can make sense, but you're right. People do get hung up, and naturally we take the path of least resistance. And so if there's another step I have to take, chances are I'm not going to take it, or there is a chance I'm not going to take it. And I'd rather not give them the chance. They've already said they want this email. I want them to get this email. So I lean away from it. But what that means then is we as a co-op have to take on the responsibility of keeping our list clean. So that's a whole nother topic we could spend some time on, is keeping your data clean and managing your email list, managing your bounce list, managing your subscriber list, paying attention to the number of opens and who's looking, who's not looking, and really working with your data so that you have a good base to go on. And this is really critical. A lot of the work I do is related to fundraising, and your data is really your path towards raising money. So if you don't have a clean email list, if you don't have good contact information for folks, when it comes time to ask them for money, you don't have a way to talk to them. You don't have a way to connect with them. So it's important for lots of reasons. Of course, to generate interest and engagement, all the things we've talked about here today, but ultimately with fundraising. So long answer to your question, I lean away from double opt-in authentication. And I would create, in a perfect world, when we have all the volunteers that we need, I would create a role for data management and someone to keep your list clean and manage that data and make sure it's up to date and useful.
Okay, great. I guess for the FCI folks, can I request that a data housekeeping webinar get suggested for the next round of FCI Live? I know I would sign up for that. You know, it's like if you get 500 or however many fake email addresses from some bots out on the internet, then that also has a cost associated with it, because the more subscribers you have, a lot of these services, you move up to the next pricing tier, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of why we launched with that double opt-in, but I've had some hesitations about it. So I just want to get your thoughts. Thanks so much.
Yep, you bet.
Noted by the FCI team. Thanks, Jen.
Great suggestion. Yes, looks like North Flint has a question.
Hi, my name is Regina. I am supporting North Flint Food Market in Flint, Michigan. Hi, everybody. Just wanted to share some recent experience I had with the mass text portion of it. So one thing about us, a lot of this depends on demographics. We have kind of an older demographic. A lot of people signed up using pen and paper. So we got a lot of phone numbers and not a whole lot of email addresses. And so we're like, okay, we've been using MailChimp. MailChimp now offers this text messaging service. We're going to try to gather some email addresses using text. And one big thing is, well, you can't add a contact to MailChimp without an email address, period. So I couldn't even go that route at all. So that was a big thing. You can't add just a phone number and a name to MailChimp. You have to have an email address already. So you can't use that text function on there. So I went
you can have the email. Okay, got you.
Right. And so I went to easy texting, and it's just the letters easy. And so that was okay. My thing was you get charged per like character. So you maybe get like one sentence in there that kind of goes one text message going out. For example, if you purchase 50 credits for like $25, if your text is too long, like you won't even get it out to that many people because they'll charge you 3 credits.
Okay.
Concept, or not concept, but process. You just kind of have to do it right. But my thing is, we did send it out to, let's say, about 400 people, 400 numbers who we didn't have email address for. And about these are phone numbers that are no longer in service. It was interesting, but I will say that I did get about 25 people who responded immediately with their email addresses. So I was excited about that at least. The percentage was probably only about 20% as far as the people who received the text. And then one key thing is with an email, you may get that.
Regina, you're cutting out at various points.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right. I was just saying, like with the text message, the difference. Um,
Yeah, we're not hearing you. I'm sorry.
oh,
Something's
I'm
up.
so sorry. Okay. I'm sorry about that. I'm as close as I can be to the screen. I'm on a computer, so I'm not sure what's happening. Can you hear me okay now?
We can.
Okay. So yeah, the last thing I was saying was just that with an email, someone can typically go back even a week later, look at that, and then still take that action. Whereas a text, sometimes you kind of have to get that immediate
Yes.
response, or you're not going to catch them. So
Yeah.
that was kind of my experience just in a recent campaign that I'm trying to do. So just wanted to share that about the text campaigns.
That's really helpful. And great real world experience. Thank you for telling us about that. I'm really curious about your campaign to get their email addresses, and the fact that you got 25 people to respond seems pretty good to me. That 25 more email addresses than we had before, so that's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, what other questions do y'all have for me? One of the things that I always talk about when I'm talking with clients about fundraising is that when you ask someone for money, you ask them and then you be quiet. You have to let them answer you. So I'm going to ask what your questions are, and then I'm going to be quiet. There's a food co-op. Fredericksburg's got a question. Susie. And you are on mute, Susie, if you're talking with us.
Can you hear me now?
Yay, yes.
So one of the things I've heard is automating these systems, and I apologize, I came in late. But what methods do you have for automating these things?
Good question. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're kind of small and we're fairly new, less than 3 years. So we're still working on systems and things, but I'm curious to know how people automate, new owners or, new Facebook signups. How do people in the real world actually automate that?
Well, the automation that we've been talking about has been via various email platforms. So we've had some examples of Constant Contact, MailChimp, and Email Octopus, I think was another one a co-op mentioned that they're using. So those are all systems that will house your owner contact information, specifically email address, sounds like phone number now with MailChimp. As well for texting. So those are some platforms. If others are using other platforms, I encourage you to share those in the chat or mention them out loud.
So when you're putting these new, so if you have a new owner, you're immediately adding them to MailChimp, or can MailChimp actually pull from your POS? We use Catapult, we use ECRS. So can
Oh, you went on mute, Susie.
Stop waving my hands around. So is it possible that Catapult can pull that, or MailChimp can pull it from Catapult, or will we then have to manually add those emails back into MailChimp?
That's a great question. There are some automations that can be set up. There's a system called Zapier, which will take information from one system and connect it to another system. It would take some manual doing on your end to connect the two systems, but there likely is some automation that can happen there.
Right. Excellent. Thank you.
Looks like Bertha has another question.
Yes, thank you. So as far as email signups, is it usually just on paper, or is there another system where people can put their email address like on an iPad or something if we are like at a booth or something, and instead of just writing it down? Because sometimes you don't really understand people's handwriting.
Right.
So just wanted to know if there's another system for that, or is it just pen and paper?
No, certainly not just pen and paper. I think having an iPad at your events where you can have your email subscription pulled up is a great avenue, and people can just sign up there. You could also do a QR code at a table, so someone could do the QR code on their phone and then sign up. So there's lots of ways to make that less manual and subject to human interpretation. Because you're right, you know, when you're going back through someone's handwriting, sometimes you're deciphering an H and a B sometimes is trickier. Figuring out their correct email address can be a hurdle. So that's a great idea. You're still
Sorry,
on mute.
just to clarify, so they can do it directly in MailChimp, like if I have the iPad, like through the app, or is there another way to capture that information, like an Excel spreadsheet or something?
Well, you could set it up in different ways. These platforms usually do have a web page where you can set up your email subscription. So you set up a QR code that goes to that web page that then automates it directly into the platform. Or you could do a Google form, you know, where they complete the Google form, and then you connect that Google form via Zapier to the platform. There's different ways to go about it, but yes, those are options.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Carol's got another question.
I don't know if you already brought this up because I came in a little bit late, but and I use both MailChimp and Constant Contact, but I know on MailChimp, the free version, you can't schedule in advance. You have to have it ready and push send when you want it to go.
Okay.
So to get the real benefit of automating things and like sitting down once, scheduling out the whole campaign, you need the paid version. So just an FYI. My question, if this is appropriate, I'm curious about your thoughts about buying email lists to do email campaigns.
That's a great question, Carol. And
or
I
is
have
that another Oprah show?
Yeah, that's another Oprah show. I think that's a topic I haven't even I have a rabbit hole I have not gone down.
Okay.
And I guess my gut reaction is no, that I would not go that route. I'd need some more data and info, I think, before I'd make a good decision about it. But my gut tells me that people are responding to what we're doing because it resonates with them. And it would be hard, I think, to make that connection with a, you know, random email address in person. But that's just my thought.
I appreciate that. And not to get too far afield, but what about remarketing? Like somebody comes on our website and visits, and then a cookie either follows them around or generates an email to them, because there again, we know they have some interest in us.
Yeah. That I again haven't gone down that rabbit hole much, not opposed to that at all. Because you're right. We've made a connection. They're interested in us. To me, that's taking advantage of systems that other entities are using and that are working. And by them establishing that interest in us, to me, triggers, okay, yeah, they're worth pursuing. Let's talk to them again. Other questions? That's a long time to be quiet. So thanks everyone for being patient. It's really a pleasure to get to talk with you all, and I'm happy to answer more direct questions after the fact. If you want to reach out to via email, I'll put my contact information on the screen here, and you can feel free to send me an email. Oh, well, at least I thought I was putting my contact on the screen. I'll put my contact information in the chat, and you guys are welcome to reach out via email if you have direct questions.
All right. Thanks, Katie. Thanks,
Sorry,
everyone. Oh, go ahead. Was there another question?
I was gonna say, did you already post that YouTube video for the?
I'll go grab it. Thank you for reminding me. Yep.
Mhm.
All right. Well, while Katie's grabbing that, I will wrap us up here then. Thank you all so much for attending today. Thank you, Katie. That was super informative. And I really loved everyone sharing their ideas and their tips in the chat and in conversation. It's really helpful to hear from others too about what's worked and different apps and all of that. I'm going to have to go check out Email Octopus after this. And so thank you all. I want to just share a little bit of wrap up housekeeping, if I may. So as you know, today is Monday. It's the first day of our second week of FCI Live. You have a whole week ahead of you of sessions, and it's not too late to register. So here's a little sneak peek of 3 of our upcoming sessions, but there are sessions every day, Monday through Thursday this week. And you can go and check out our, if you go to fci.coop, you can see all of the upcoming sessions and register there. I put a survey in the chat. So we take our surveys and feedback from you all really seriously as we format our next FCI Live. Think about what kinds of sessions we can help bring to up and coming and elsewhere, and we share the feedback with our presenters. So please do take a couple of moments to fill that out. You'll get that in an email afterwards as well. And just a thank you again to our sponsors up on the screen who help keep this program free and available to everyone. So as a reminder, this session is recorded. It'll be available on YouTube, and all of the sessions will be available as well. And everyone will get an email about that as well. So thank you all very much. I'm going to stop recording now. And